Hello and welcome to this video where we're going to be looking at the cosine rule and how you can use the cosine rule to find missing sides and angles in triangle problems. You can see the cosine rule on the screen in front of you here. And just take note of the letters that you have. So you can see we have a small a, a small b, a small c here, and then a small b, a small c here, and then just a capital A inside the cosine. Now the capital letters refer to the angles of the triangle. When you get your problem, you're going to have to label the angles, and you can choose any of the angles to be the capital A, but whichever one you choose to be the uppercase A, the opposite side will need to be the lowercase a. And then the other two will be B, and if that is B, then this needs to be lowercase b, and then also capital C, which will be the angle, and then lowercase c, the side opposite. Now, when you're doing your substitution, it's important to note that this side here is going to be the side opposite this angle here. And if you look at how I've drawn my triangle, you can see that you can use the cosine rule if you know this angle, and you also know the sides B and C on either side, then you can use that to work out the side opposite like this. Let's see how that works for a practical example. Okay, so here we have a triangle, and I can see that this angle here is 50 degrees. And as I was mentioning before, we have the angle and the two sides either side of that angle. And then we are looking for the side opposite, which has been labelled X. So we must choose our sides appropriately. And so because we're looking for this side X, I want this to be the lowercase a on the left-hand side of the equation. This is the lowercase a, and then opposite we're going to have the uppercase A, which will be the angle going in here. Now, how you label the 5 and the 6 is up to you. It doesn't matter because you are just adding the b squared plus c squared. So if they get swapped around, it will be the same thing. And here, when you multiply b and c, if they get swapped around, still it's the same thing. So I will just choose this to be b, so that makes this capital B, and this to be c, which will make that capital C. Once you've labelled up the triangle, it is simply a case of substituting into this equation here. So we have a squared, that's the side x, is equal to, and then I have b squared, well, I know that 5 squared is 25, plus c squared, and I also know that 6 squared is 36, minus 2 times b, which is 5, times c, which is 6, cosine of A, capital A, which is 50 degrees, that's the angle. And then once you substitute it into the equation, it's just a case of working out all of this on the left-hand side. And you can go ahead and type that into your calculator all at once, or you could do it step by step. So if you wanted to, we could partially solve this and say this is 25 plus 36, and then 2 times 5 times 6 is 60, times cosine of 50. And then again, if I typed all of that out into my calculator, I would have a squared as being equal to 22.43. Now remember, this is all a squared. This is a squared, so it's not a yet. The last step that I'm going to have to do now is to take the square root of that 22.43, or you can use the ANS button on your calculator. If you do square root ANS, it won't matter if you've rounded it. It will take the previous answer in your calculator, so the full number. Once you've done that, we get A as being equal to 4.74 to 2 decimal places. Okay, so if you would like to, I'm going to put up another problem now there on the screen. So feel free to pause the video, grab a pen and paper, and see if you can work through that problem yourself. Okay, so if you did have a go at that, this is the solution that you should have got to. So you're going to substitute in, and again, if you've swapped round the 8 and the 10, that's absolutely fine. If you swap them around here, it's fine. You should get to the same answer. And the right-hand side of the equation evaluates to 13.65. You take the square root and you should get 3.69. Well done if you managed to get that. If you didn't, feel free to pause the video again and just have a look through my solution. Okay, moving on to the second type of problem. So if you have all 3 sides of a triangle, you can work out an angle. And you can work out any of the 3 angles. You just need to be careful to label your triangle appropriately. So it's this one here that the cosine rule will find, the capital A. So because I'm looking for this angle, I want to label this one as being capital A, and so therefore the opposite side is going to be the lowercase a. That's the only bit that's super important, because as before, it doesn't really matter which way around we label these. The cosine rule will do the same thing for us. Okay, so once you've labelled your triangle, it's a case of substituting in. There is another version of the cosine rule where you can rearrange this whole formula to get cosine A equal to, but I would recommend, I think it's harder to learn a whole new formula than it is to just use this one, and we'll substitute and then rearrange. So I'm going to substitute in, so this here, a squared, that must be 10 squared, so that's going to be 100, is equal to, and then I want b squared, so 8 squared is 64, plus c squared, so 9 squared is 81, and then I'm going to do minus 2 times b times c times cosine of theta, which is the thing I'm now looking for. Now we need to rearrange this. It's easier to do if you evaluate some of these things. So you can do 64 plus 81, which is 145. And then 2 times 8 times 9 is minus 144 cosine of theta. Now I'm trying to rearrange for this, the cosine theta part. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to subtract 145 from both sides. I'm going to minus 145 here, minus 145 on the other side. So 100 subtract 145 is going to be minus 45. And this is equal to 144 cosine of theta. Now I'm going to do negative 45 divided by negative 144 to work out what cosine of theta is. And in this case, this is 0.3125. Now, slightly different to before, we have this solution to cosine of theta, and I'm trying to work backwards to work out what this theta is. When you're working backwards on your calculator, you're going to have to use the inverse cosine button. So on your calculator, you need to find the button that says cosine minus 1, and that is what will work backwards to theta for you. It is usually just above the cosine button, so shift and then cosine should get you there. And then once you take the inverse of 0.3125, you get theta as being 71.79. So you're going to type in your calculator cosine negative 1 of this. Will get you back to the theta. Okay, again, as before, I have a problem here for you to try. So pause the video and see if you can have a go at this one yourself. Okay, if you did try to do that, you should have something that looks like so. So here's the full substitution and then the rearrangement. You end up with cosine of theta is equal to this, 0.48, so on. Then you do inverse cosine of this to work out what theta is, and you should get 61.03. Okay, well done if you managed to get there. If you didn't, you can pause the video again and have a look through. And that is all you need to know for using the cosine rule. So thank you very much for listening. I have done another video on the sine rule, which I will link in the description if you're interested. And if you did find the video helpful, then please go ahead and give it a like, and it will help other students such as yourself to find this video as well. Have a good day.